Hello 8th grade, this is Mr. Rogers and you're watching the video lecture here. This is for, we're still on 2-3. We're talking about oxidation numbers and how we kind of figure out the oxidation number of different elements. So what an oxidation number is, it's a positive or negative number which indicates how many electrons an element has gained or lost when bonding with another atom. So if it's gained electrons, now it has an overall negative charge. If it's lost electrons, now its charge is overall positive. It's all about having that positive or negative charge and how many electrons compared to how many protons it has. Another idea, kind of speaking of different types of ions, is that charged atom usually. We use the word polyatomic ion. And poly means many. So polyatomic ions are just groups of atoms, basically molecules, that are bonded together but have an overall charge. So it's more than one atom that has an overall net charge, positive or negative. So you might see polyatomic ions that have a charge. We'll use those here as we move forward. Alright, 8th grade, so to do this today, to figure out the ion of different elements, it all goes back to what we talked about last chapter, in the number of valence electrons. This is all about valence electrons. And there's a couple of very kind of basic rules here we need to think about. It starts here, we'll start over here on groups 1 and 2. Remember the rules. If it has, in group 1, it has 1 valence electron. In group 2, they all have 2. So if I go all the way down, these all have 1 valence electron. These all have 2 valence electrons. And what that means is, and there's a couple rules there, if you're less than 4 valence electrons, you tend to lose or give away those electrons. So elements in groups 1 and 2, when we look at those metals that are in there, these are metals, they tend to lose their electrons. They give them away. So these tend to form positive ions. It's weird to think about. They give away electrons, and now they're positive. On the other side, we'll look at group number 16. So all the elements here in group 16 have 6 valence electrons. Now, again, and that shell wants to get to 8. That atom, that electron shell, that's when it's most happy or stable. So when it has 8 valence electrons, when that shell is filled up. So these have 6 valence electrons. They want to get to 8. And the rule is, again, less than 3, they tend to flee. 4 or more, they tend to hoard or gain the electrons. So if you have 6, you're going to want to get up to 8. You're going to gain 2 electrons. So they tend to gain electrons. They're going to gain 2 electrons. So elements here are going to have a plus 2, or I'm sorry, a negative 2. They've lost, they've gained 2 electrons. So now their overall charge is negative. They form negative ions. So if you gain electrons, now you're a negative ion. If you've lost electrons, now you're positive. They're kind of opposites there. That's how we figure out what type of oxidation number is. The oxidation number is how many would gain or lose to become stable. So we're looking at one real quick here. So here we're looking at sodium. Here's a symbol for sodium. And sodium has, if you do the dot diagram, has 1 valence electron. So if you have 1 valence electron, you tend to, again, lose. Less than 4, you tend to lose. So when I draw out the oxidation number, again, that's that if it's going to gain or lose electrons, it's going to tend to lose its 1 electron. So now it has actually a plus 1, a positive charge. I would draw it out like that because it's lost an electron. So now its overall charge is positive. Alright guys, here we go. Now on the other side we have chlorine. Chlorine is a nonmetal and it has 7 valence electrons. So it wants to gain 1 more electron. You can see I have 7 dots around it, so it wants to gain electrons to get up to 8 in its shell. So the oxidation number there, how many is it going to gain or lose? It's going to tend to gain 1 electron. So now it's actually got an overall negative charge. That's that symbol, negative 1. It's got an overall negative charge because it's gained an electron. And that's how we draw it out. We actually draw out in the corner up here what that charge is going to be of that element. And we can use the periodic table to do that, again, by thinking about those rules if it gains or loses electrons. So a quick recap here in the periodic table, and we can use these rules, understanding how many valence electrons they have. In groups 1 and 2, that's where you have less than 4, so these tend to lose and become positive ions. Over here, if you have 4 or more, so all these over here, tend to gain electrons. Their charges tend to be negative ions is what they form. And we use those rules, either losing it to get down and get rid of all of its electrons, those valence electrons, or it's gaining to get to 8 valence electrons. That's the key, getting to 8 valence electrons. That's what kind of determines all of this. So, 8th grade, I thank you guys for watching, and we'll stop here and see you along the way.